Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 24. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the Titan Dominant.
Paul, hey everybody, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good, Paul. We are just going to ignore a little technical hiccup that people are not going to look at. How are you doing this Friday? We're recording a day late.
I'm doing all right. This has been a wild summer, I tell you.
Yeah. Can you believe
the way
it?
We've been eating? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Can you believe it's almost July?
Nope.
Next week.
And I refuse to believe it.
Yeah, next week July starts. Like, where has time gone? Like, where is time like just flying by? But I'm thankful because usually summers go so slow. They tend to go so slow because they're so uneventful. This summer is just way too eventful at a certain point, especially like something that's been happening in the last 2 days. Not just game related, but just like in the news cycle. It's just been like, how is this summer just like nonstop? It's just, I need a little bit of a break. But at the very least, like we're getting some fun stuff. But yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of a chunky episode here. But hopefully we can be not too long-winded about it because I want to go back and play what we're playing. But hey, there is the cameo.
The one that hates the world.
Yeah. There you go. How you doing, Felix?
He wishes that we were having food right now.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine. My grandma has become a cat mom now. She has 2 cats now. Yeah, one called Minnie and the other one called Kitty. It's so funny.
That's cute.
Yeah, so she's absolutely in love with cats, and she already had 3 dogs, and she has 2 parrots also. So she has like a wild zoo around.
What is it about grandparents and owning parrots? Because Elizabeth's grandmother has 2 parrots as well.
That's so funny. But if there's just something about their constant noise that makes you feel like you're not alone, and if you have parrots that know how to talk or that can learn some words, that also makes it more. They make them great companions to just have someone to talk to, because dogs and cats are literally just staring at you, and then cats are just assholes, like walking around like
as long as
dropping
the
things.
Parrots don't learn the wrong things. Like one of them will do the smoke alarm sound, that really high pitched.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll do car alarms.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes they learn the profanity from other family members.
That's the funniest part, right? Like parrots that learn like those are the words that stick to them, not other ones. It's kind of like a baby learning about a word at first. That always cracks me up. But enough of that nonsense, Paul. We got a few things to talk about. But this is a reminder: this is the X-Button podcast, or gaming podcast that posts every Friday from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available in the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy the show, give us a like and subscribe. And if you're on audio services, like if it's not worth minding much, leave us a review. I would love to hear. I would love to hear like how we're doing there. So because that can help us in the algorithm and all of that. So, Paul, time to talk about what we've been playing, but we can go quickly through the other ones that we played before, like diving deep into one that also dovetails into the news. Street Fighter 6, you talked about your big frustration, and I said,
yes,
that sounds too, like, it can't be that complicated. And lo and behold, what did I do?
All right, hear me out. It is still complicated. You're just smarter than me. Let's just go with that.
It wasn't as complicated as after you went on your diatribe last week of like your complication not being able to like get the game that we bought the account for, like we wouldn't be able to play online. I literally just like made an account because you never made an account with the Escape Gaming thing. The things that you were trying to use your own account in a different account that you had already assigned somewhere else. So that's kind of like where you were messing up. But we had never made a static account. So that's what made it.
Specific context, it was simpler than I was thinking. I will acknowledge it. Yeah. The second is that if we didn't have our situation and I had to use my old like actual email address that was linked to another account, that is needlessly complicated because it's still a reality of if it's actually linked already or if it's
screwed.
Created,
it's screwed.
Then you're screwed. So that part, absolutely valid. The second part is I'm really glad there was some extra spots because you're right. I hadn't created the account for Escape Gaming. I just tried to link it and
it's something else.
It didn't tell me that it didn't exist. It just told me that it couldn't be linked. So I thought it was just the same issue. So that was where I think there was a tiny miscommunication there. Fortunately, you spent a little bit of your time to get me logged in, and then I was able to actually play the game, and I am loving it. Everything looks gorgeous. Everything's super snappy and fun.
How is playing? How is the fighting online?
Fighting online is really fun. I will acknowledge, because part of it's because it's Street Fighter, and there's just so many more people playing Street Fighter as opposed to a new Guilty Gear, King of Fighters, Blaze Blue, the other one that I can't remember the name of, DNF Duel, but yeah. There's so many more people playing on something like this that the only other people that would beat it, maybe Tekken, but definitely Mortal Kombat. So it's so easy to find a match with somebody. Let's have like a little bit of a comparison here. Street Fighter, you just set your matchmaking to on, and then you sit there, or you go into training, you have fun, and then when it finds something, you're good. Guilty Gear, you have a tower, and you have a level within that tower that you can log into as a lobby, and then you physically have to run a character around from end to end that you can't see all of, 3 levels of which you have to find a character, you have to queue up to a little thing, have them queue up with you voluntarily, and then you maybe get to connect, or it'll fail. If you don't have enough people, you have to go manually through regions, you have to go through lobbies within that regions, you have to make sure it's on the right level of the tower that you're able to go. Needlessly complicated. Street Fighter, it's just turn it on. Put your controller down, do some work, and then the second you hear it feel it vibrate and you hear the sound, you just pick up your controller and you play. Easy. And it's so fun to understand concepts better now in fighting games that I've posted a couple of videos on Twitter of like the first perfect that I did, and a couple other crazy, like really close matches.
Didn't you post like a picture of you winning one of those matches? Yeah.
That was, I had just the tiny piece of health against a character that's considered very frustrating to play against. So it was just like a really nice, like, I did it moment. And I'm having no issues ever since then. I mean, you have people that are now using the modern control scheme. You have people will spam. I haven't had any quitters yet, but I've heard rage quitting can be an issue for some people.
Like it is in always any fighting game.
Yeah, it's just part of the landscape, really. So yeah, needless to say, having a ton of fun with that. I talked to you about it, that my World Tour experience dropped down a whole lot. It's kind of come up since then because there's a couple things that you can kind of do to mitigate the problem. But what I told him was that everybody kind of becomes a punch sponge, where it just takes forever, even if you're at a similar level, to actually do enough damage to certain enemies for some reason, and there doesn't seem to be much of a understanding between one person who's the same level as you and another. And it gets a little bit less focused. It gets really confusing. There's stuff that they have you do that don't have markers on the map, so you have to figure it out yourself. And it's enough of a world that it's convoluted, and you're like, I have no idea where this image is. You remember like the Spider-Man pictures? And at least like Peter Parker would be like, oh, that's over here, and it's southwest of here. That's easy. And then like you go there, sure enough, you find like the ESU college or whatever. This one's like, hey, there's a brick wall with this piece of graffiti behind it. Go find it. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. That's gonna take me way too long.
Yeah, I appreciate them trying something different. It's like, it's rare because the thing is that even the Mortal Kombat has a crit mode where you have a character you're moving around and all of that. So it's like, it's not completely new. They did a whole ass open world game where it's basically Pokemon. You like run into someone, you ask them to fight, then it becomes like a sort of fighting game, and that's not what I like in single player fighting games. Like, that's why I always say that I prefer the Mortal Kombat style single player, which is playing as all the characters with a narrative that keeps evolving, and then it swaps the characters around, and that's how you get to play all of them in a way that makes sense. That's why like I dropped off from that. I uninstalled World Tour because you can uninstall it. I only have the arcade mode available for the lower file system because I do love the combat in that game. Like the mechanic, like I said, the mechanics of Street Fighter are so nice. They feel so good. Like there's a reason why Street Fighter is like such a pillar for the FGC community, because like the way you can master it. Obviously, right now there's like the controversy of like, are you playing with someone that's using the modern controls versus the one that's like the more classic things, and it doesn't like match you with that. So technically, someone with modern controls could be quote unquote cheating, but who cares? It's like at least just mechanically it's so solid that more people can enjoy it. I don't play online, so Street Fighter 6 is not like that. That's not what I got that game for. I already got my fill of it. It's an excellent fighting game. So I'm glad that I was able to fit, because I knew that you had such a high opinion of that, and the whole online problem was just like completely like just demoralized. So I was like, I'm gonna do something nice for him. And also selfishly, I know that there's gonna be online Capcom games, like one that's coming out in 2 weeks, and I wouldn't have wanted to ask in our arrangement of paying half and half in the account that we have, ask you to play an online game that you wouldn't have been able to play. So I also selfishly fixed that for you just to cover the bases for that. But I did some that's a nice thing that I did for you, at least for you to enjoy Street Fighter 6. And good thing it's like you can have it installed now because it's not that big of a file size. So we also both finished Diablo 4 literally the same night. You finished it first, I finished it a little later. And now that we've removed a little bit, what do you think of Diablo 4?
Well, do you want to jump straight into the issues that we've kind of discussed with Diablo 4? Or
I can jump in and say I already deleted it. I am not going to spend any more time with Diablo 4 and like what it's going to be like this quote-unquote live service. Kind of like structure, because they're copying Diablo 3. Hey, a new season, create a new character, start from scratch. Oh, a new season comes out, then you're gonna make another character to start from scratch. That character that you already built up, yeah, you can still have it there, but it's not gonna be able to get any of the seasonal progression. That's completely separate. That whenever you have expansions, then that old character that you spent all this time upgrading, that's the one that you'll be able to use. And I'm like, the reason why you're making a live service game is that the one character that you do is the one that you carry forever. That's like the whole concept. What Diablo 4 did as a live service was making Diablo always online again, because Diablo 3 was always online. That was the whole problem with that game back at launch with Era 37 and all of that. And when Reaper of Souls and the console versions came in, they came in with an offline mode. And them doing live servicing, it was just them re-enabling an online-only Diablo game to be able to also monetize this game with the microtransaction store, which, by the way, is like, it's completely useless. If you get cool-looking loot from the game, they did good there. It's like, this is not the Destiny problem where they have put so much cool-looking loot that you have to buy, instead of like the ones that you earn from like your seasonal stuff and all that. So, in that case, I was like, I'm glad I finished the campaign. I'm not gonna engage any more with it, because there is nothing equivalent to like raids or all of that. It's like the big like end game thing that you do with Diablo 4 is like apparently fighting Lilith again at harder difficulties, and I'm like, I don't care about that. Like,
there's some kind of like world boss system that almost acts like public events, but it shows it to you on the map. So I guess that's one of the things that they really try to get to.
I beat one of those before even finishing the campaign. It popped up for me. Thankfully,
those don't spawn until you've beaten the campaign.
Okay,
so there's
other ones
set.
Okay,
yeah,
but I did find one of those world bosses that is like in the kind of like extraction area of the desert. That is like red, this red, and I joined some people that were like fighting this like super spongy boss. So I kind of, because I was a bow and archer, I was like standing back, just shooting, while everyone else was just doing that. And then you get this red currency that you can go to acquire some loot in a town that's nearby. So it's like, my thing is that why would I continue like playing endgame with Diablo if what I'm playing with is not gonna carry over with like seasons? That's kind of like my logic. So I was like, they're applying how they did Diablo 3's endgame was that game was not a live service. When they finally decided that they were not going to keep expanding it beyond Reaper of Souls, when the Necromancer, when they added it, that was originally part of an expansion that then they decided to can because that game wasn't making ongoing revenue. Then they decided to pivot to a seasonal thing and to make seasons feel like they were more rewarding, because it was always, every season you made in that game, you had to restart the campaign over and over. The only way for them to make that worth it was always starting a new character for every season. That's how they did it. I accept with Diablo 3, that's a 2012 game. That was before the live service era where everything is like more. The character that I started playing Destiny 2 with in 2017 is still my same character with the same loot, the same things that have carried me over the last 6 years. That's the point of live service. When I heard that they were going back to that system, I was like, delete 75 gigs off of my console. And as for the campaign, I enjoyed it. My problems with it still remain that I think it's too big of a campaign for me to like do another character again. It's like it's not as I don't feel like it has the tightness of Diablo 3 that I could jump in a different character and feel like I could make quick progression to get that character as powerful as I wanted to. There's some quality of life of doing a new character, like your flasks remain the same. So like I ended the campaign with 7 flasks for health. Those are already automatically with a separate character, so I don't have to grind the different areas anymore. Your horse is there from the very beginning, so that makes moving around much quicker, which when you didn't have that horse in your first character, sucked. Because it was like, it's too big of a distance, because the game is just too big compared to how other Diablos was. The story I thought was pretty good compared to like other Diablo stories that are more simple. Act 6 rocked. Like I think there was like an amazing build up to like the end, like you with Lorath and the other two what was the name of the other two characters? Mayrel and the dude that dies.
Lorath and
Donan, yeah.
Spoilers for the story of Diablo 4.
Who cares about spoilers? It's not a story-based game, but it's like that's the guy that his son becomes Astaroth in the second act. But I like having you felt like you had your fellowship as you were going. You were storming hell, and
I was shockingly compelled by each of the characters, despite the fact that you spend so much time just looking down at them from above. I really liked the camera angle. I noticed that there was a difference between Diablo 4 and Diablo 3's camera, because Diablo 3 it's more of a lower out slightly. This is almost like completely straight down. I don't know which I prefer more. I really liked that you can see further in 3, but also they made it so that all of what you really need to see is right in front of you for 4. So in the end, it worked out. It feels like you're looking down at a little diorama, which is nice.
Yeah, and also 4 more cinematic of it. And 4 is more cinematic. That zooms in and switches around. It's like that's what makes
that detail about the camera, how it's like a extra character where it zooms in on like the mini cutscenes that the characters have animations. They move around. They're existing in that spot, almost like The Sims. And then you have like a step up for the CGI cutscenes, and then like the actual crazy CGI cutscenes is like kind of like how I used to see cutscenes for Final Fantasy games. You had the character you're looking down at, then you had like the kind of CG, and then you had the really nice FMV videos.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like Diablo 4 doesn't have CG cutscenes other than the beginning and the amazing one in Act 6 with that you can see in some of the trailers. A lot of those cutscenes are in-game. A lot of it's because if you go to Diablo 3 at the end,
values are different.
Yeah, but it's not CG, like because I definitely saw that whenever we switched to the cutscene, and everyone was saying that Diablo 3 has one of probably the most amazing CG cutscene ever. Yes, so 4. Sorry, where Diablo 4 has one of the most amazing CG cutscenes ever, which happens like near the end of Act 6, which you can see remnants of in the trailer that Jeff Keighley showed at the Game Awards back in December.
Which I remember that.
Yeah, so it was like not a complete surprise, but seeing everything in context was so cool, because like the production value was like, man, if there could be a movie of this in this quality, would be really cool.
I think I misspoke on that. I meant to say the
in-game
actual cutscenes. In-game, not CG.
Yeah,
that was different.
But testament to this game, like Diablo 3 could never do in-game cutscenes like this, because the character models are like so like low quality.
Warcraft.
Yeah, so that was like the big problem with people with Diablo 3, that they completely changed the art style, especially compared to 2. That 4 is like so similar to, especially as someone that just beat Diablo 2 recently. So that worked. I did like some of the moral quandaries of how they resolved Lilith and the other demon that kind of got free, which is a series staple. Basically, Mephisto. Yeah. Like Mephisto is like a big demon you actually kill on 2. You lock him in one of the soulstones in that one. So it was interesting that they put like a moral quandary of like, do you free this or you just kill Lilith? Because he was asking you to like seal Lilith in the thing, but then like your character has to seal Mephisto, and then like Mayarel goes on her own like basically her own odyssey by herself to try to figure out, because they're teasing like the return of like the other demons, so Baal and Diablo, which were the big ones in 2.
I mean, considering they really want this to have expansions upon expansions, it makes sense that they were going to give you and the adventure continues situation. I am glad that I was not having to make those decisions myself, because I wouldn't have been like, yeah, maybe I should change things up, really like take some agency and change, not believe this character that's been saying that they have my best interest at heart, but they're also a super evil demon. But overall, it was just a roller coaster by the end. Overall, I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I was saying that I prefer Diablo 3 than 4, like when we last talked about it. After finishing this, I feel they're more in equal terms, because like story-wise, like Diablo 4 was elevated for me. It's just more I'm not as compelled to do another character immediately. I'd rather play other games. And also to me personally, even though like, yes, there you can make the case that you're the one sending those demons to hell you're fighting, that is like the Doom scenario. There is just something to me like seeing so much demonic imagery so much bothers me personally compared to 3. That really lowers that like entirely. Like, you don't see a single pentagram in 3 like at all in like 5 acts.
It's really funny.
It's so crazy.
That bothers you so much, and like we're flip-flopped in some areas. I remember when you were talking about Black Adam, the dude's like, he has a pentagram on his chest. I was like, yeah.
That's a thing. Hey, when you grow up as a pastor that studied a lot of occultism and you learn a lot, that's why you know. Yeah. So that was like the difference. To be able to like recognize that and accepting it at a certain point, and at a certain point it was just too much for me, that I was like, I'm like, it's not me doing that. I'm like fighting these enemies that are all that bad. At a certain point, it's like I'd rather not constantly see that, to me personally. So that's why I was like, I felt so good with the. Yeah, I don't need to like keep engaging with Diablo 4 at least until its expansion, so I can get some distance out of it. So, but overall, like if that doesn't bother you, still pretty good ARPG. Really bummed about the seasonal stuff, because right now that Destiny is going through one of its worst times probably ever. Like the community sentiment is so demoralized right now. Like it, and I've been through all of it. I've been through the Dark Below. I've been through Curse of Osiris. I've been through the post Shadowkeep lulls, and it's like it always happens, but it feels extra dire right now, and it feels more dire because Diablo 3, that has a lot of systemic similarities in genre, shows what a good one of those can be, like, and how Destiny's like faltering. And I don't see our clan asking for, hey, who wants to raid? Hey, who wants to do the dungeon? And that tells me a lot. I knew it, even though some wanted to make fun of when I said that I feel this season was boring AF. I'm talking to you, AC. I know you don't listen to this. It's like it's proven. I'm seeing like the engagement the community are having with this current season and how Destiny feels right now. It feels dire. So I want Diablo to feel more like a long-standing thing. I don't want to like keep resetting characters. More power to you for the people that does that. But like yeah, it's a good game. I liked it. I didn't love it, but it's definitely one of the better games that came out this year. After we both finished it, we were kind of like a little bit of a lull trying to figure out like how we were going to spend our time before Final Fantasy XVI came out. And I started trying so many things until you finally decide, after me constantly telling you, now that this is on Extra, you need to play this. You finally played Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. You beat Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I also played it. I got a confession to make to you, Paul. I never finished this game. I saw my brother finish it.
You what?
Yeah. I never finished it myself.
Son of a gun.
Yeah. So, you know why I didn't know that there was a certain sequence in this game that was very similar to another big game this year? Because I never saw it.
You didn't. Oh my gosh! I just thought you were sitting on that this entire time.
No, can you imagine?
Oh my goodness. So let me chat about this for a second, because I was at my wit's end, not being able to play anything, and like, because you can only play like Street Fighter online matches for a certain amount of time before it like really starts to mess you up after a while. Because like my heart rate was like racing after this last match, and I was like, okay, I gotta put this down. This is gonna kill me. And I finally went through some of my other games. I remembered that I still had Rift Apart installed, and it was like still on my main taskbar because I haven't played too many other games on my main account. So I was like, well, I remember really enjoying the 2016 Ratchet and Clank reboot. Let me just try this out and see. Like, I know people talked so big about it, and because I knew your thoughts on it, I immediately took a picture of it whenever I pulled it up. Starting it from the beginning, I mean, it acts like you don't really remember anything about it, but you don't need to know anything about it. You just know, like, you've heard of the characters, and they almost treat that as the way it is. It's like, all right, you've heard of these people. What did they do?
It's a new number one. It's like a comic number one. Things happened before. They are canon, but you don't need to know that to enjoy the story that they're telling here. So. And
then just the way that we started out with this insane Uncharted level platforming. Platforms are crashing to the ground. People are dying. There's explosions everywhere.
The visual spectacle
for your life. It looks amazing. The fur, like you told me.
Yeah.
And just how seamless and smooth everything was, because it's just so simple. I love the animation, the little squash and stretch, like every character's slightly made out of rubber, the way they move around. It's just adorable.
The ray trace, the reflections of almost like the shiny reflections of this sci-fi world. It's like that's what I was telling you. It's like, it's really unfortunate you didn't play this back in 2021 when there was nothing to play. Why I never personally finished was that, remember what I said? I was like, I pulled a Borderlands. I played like in the lead up to this. I played so many of the old ones because I didn't finish many of the old ones because this was always a franchise that me and my brother, like when we were like playing concurrently, I had my way to playing games. I like I like exploring a lot. I don't like just like beelining through. My brother does that all the time with any game. He never does side quests. He just like beelines through every game. So then I see that he's so far away, and then when I start feeling like I'm too behind, then I start then I start getting demoralized to keep going because I'm seeing because then I'm feeling, God, I have to like catch up. It's kind of like even though you try not to spoil it, I think that's what ruined a Plague Tale for me, like Requiem, when we were playing it, because you had already like in non-spoilery way like send me all these images of things that were happening, and then when I was not reaching those things in a timely manner, it made the rest of that game a slog. So I had that problem of hearing or seeing stuff ahead of when I'm playing it, because then trying to get to that place makes me feel the time more than it needs. That's why I try to like remain as spoiler free, or when everyone else is like, or being super vague, like maybe the vaguest of things, to be able to enjoy that. And with Rift Apart, the thing is that I'm glad that you hadn't played, or you didn't even finish the 2016 even recently, or even back then, because a lot of the Ratchet and Clank games, from a gameplay perspective and a gameplay loop, are all the same. That's like its strength and its weakness, I would say, because it's like, it's rare for a Ratchet game to really like change the mold, but it's like that formula has been repeated for so long for a good reason. It's really fun. There's just something about like the bolts flying to you, the crazy weapons you use, those weapons constantly upgrading like the more you use them. So there's always like, you feel the reward loops like constantly. And these games have always been kind of like at the forefront of like, it's a Pixar movie that you play, all the way back to the PS2. The things that this is the first time that feels like legit. The other ones are like, oh yeah, at the time that makes sense, but now when you look at it, it looks kind of rough. But yes, like I found getting that step 2 years. I took 2 years, like to try to forget it. Like I played all those damn Ratchet and Clank games on PS3, and get it to replay this. Like, man, this was this was what I needed as a palate cleanser for Diablo, as like something to play before Final Fantasy XVI, and I platinumed the game. It took me 3 days. Like I started the game in 1 day, 2 days later I platinumed it. It's like such an easy platinum also, and this helped a little bit, and probably like reigniting a little bit of my excitement for Spider-Man 2, because when it comes to superhero stuff right now, I'm more burnt out than I can imagine. But when thinking about it as the next game from Insomniac Games that made this game, and seeing what they did with this, and Spider-Man 2 is their next game after this, and them being a company that builds upon their strengths, that makes it more exciting outside of me being more bored out of my mind with with superheroes in general. So such a charming game like that. The story of Rivet and Kit, the alternate. That's probably the thing that I didn't give enough credit to to Rift Apart the other ones. This is the first Ratchet and Clank game where Ratchet and Clank are incidental to the story. Yeah. They get you in, but it's like this is a story of alternate characters that even though they play the same, they act so differently and they go through their own struggles and things that have their own charm. That then at the end of that story, is like it feels so fulfilling, and it's. You can't I can't stress this enough. People are like, if you have a 4K TV and you still want like a game that really like flexes the muscles of like your PS5, I feel still 2 years later, Rift Apart is that game, even more than Horizon. And Horizon,
I just how crazy it all jumps through different things. I think that was this game that we said compared to Horizon, right?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I think it's better than Horizon personally. Now that I've like gotten this and yet this is a better game.
Yeah, looking back, I fully agree. Because my goodness, it's just so much tighter. It's got the perfect amount of meat on the bones. It's got extra stuff that you can kind of do if you really want to. There's like little offshoots here and there that give you the armors. I didn't even know that was a thing. But that was really cool customization, that you can just wear different armor colors and change it up every once in a while. The fact that both of the characters have slightly different names to their weapons was really cool detail that I did not like. I thought I was going crazy for a second. I was like, that's not the name of it. I was like, oh shoot, I'm playing a different character. That's right. Just all of the dialogue, the movement, the just fun way it ties it all together, the crazy, insane final act where it was pulling like a God of War Ragnarok, turning to the place you were, and just there's like spaceships going in, pirate armies, crazy robot battles, things are blowing up, like people are dying off screen, but it's like Pixar that you're just like, this is fun unless you really think about it, and then it's horrifying.
Yeah.
But it's just so fun. And I gotta say, like, the final boss, the actual final boss was a little tricky.
Yeah.
I died once.
I died once.
I was pressed. I had to like go from like, oh, this is really fun, to like, oh shoot, hang on a second, I gotta sit up. I felt the same way. Cross my legs. Yeah. I gotta take this seriously. But yeah, just everything from start to finish, it was great. And I'll say this in the same breath of like Kena Bridge of Spirits is like, I mean, we're not going to talk about like the parry system, whatever, the final boss, any of that. It's just that idea of like
the animated
style, the explore, run around, do things. Everything's just, it's like got a tinge of like darkness to it, but it's still just wholesome and fun, and it's just great. So I had a lot of fun. Yeah,
considering like that, a lot of Sony's first party stuff right now feels so samey, especially tonally and even some of it visually. A game like Ratchet and Clank stands out more, even though it's an old series. But it's because it's such counter programming to everything else that they're doing. So that was just a nice reminder of why Ratchet and Clank has endured so long, from PS2 to PS3 to PS4 and PS5. One of the few Sony franchises that still remains, and probably next to Gran Turismo, the only one that has remained the same, because God of War changed, even though it's still a franchise that was birthed back in PS2. So and there's just something about that familiarity. I would say definitely like a lot of the conversation around this game at launch suffered over the lack of PS5s, that people couldn't like. That was the worst. We were at the worst of the shortages back then. The $70 price tag, I kind of gave you the context that this was a premium experience for Sony at a certain point. It was priced equally as other games like Uncharted 2 and Ratchet and Clank Crack in Time, the 2009 one, were priced $60. Then Ratchet went into like a weird phase where like they were releasing different kinds of games that were at different prices. Even like the Ratchet and Clank remake we got in 2016, the one that you played, was a $40 thing. I found massive success with that. So then going into this one at a $70 price tag is like, from how it looks, I feel it deserves that. Like it feels it deserves kind of like that price tag because it feels like a premium thing. It's like it runs so well. It's like prettier than any other game. But perceptually, like from perception, it's like Kena was a $30 game also, Paul. Like so it was like that hurt it a little bit, but that's Sony's fault because they devalued the franchise with so many games that they released that were like offshoots at cheaper price points, that then the sticker shock of seeing this kind of game that it's also not that long, that to me wasn't a problem because it felt nice playing something so complete and digestible. Like at no point was I bored, even when I was getting bored with some sections like the underwater section that you play with Ratchet, where there's like an alien thing.
I
that
didn't
was
even
like,
mind that part all that much because I love, like, I was thinking of the 90s Spider-Man PS1 game.
Oh yes, with Doc
where
Ock.
the whole final level is the underwater base. Like that altered my personality. So ever since then, I'm like, oh, it's the underwater base, just like the Spider-Man PS1 game. It's awesome. Yeah. So I guess that's probably why.
No, but even then, it's like you don't spend that much time there. So that's the thing.
Exactly.
Even when you're like slowly getting like close to being like maybe we're spending it a little too long, then you're out. It's like it's such a masterclass in tightness and in like pacing that I'm like I appreciate it. I appreciate this even more now, especially the more I grow as an adult. Maybe if I was younger, if I wanted more meat out of this, I was like maybe because it's like the length conversation is always so complicated because sometimes a game can be too long and then you burn out and then you don't finish it or you're so tired of it. Then other times games can be too short that then you're like, man, I should have waited for a sale for that one. I feel this one was perfect length for what it was, and again, like now I'm more excited for Spider-Man even if I'm not over the moon excited because of my extraneous tiredness of just Marvel in general. But it's the same company. I can't wait for what this company does with that game. And I kept playing Final Fantasy 15. I was wondering if I was going to be able to finish it. I got to chapter 8. That's the chapter right before you go to the Leviathan section. Like where you go to that new city and all that. That's where I stopped. And I was kind of sending you videos and all that. I was like, man, it's like the scale of a lot of that game. It's like crazy that they were doing that here, but the new game kind of like dwarfs it in like scale. That was insane. And the combat is such jank in Final Fantasy XVI. Like the camera is spasming out and the holding buttons to watch things happening. But the charm of the characters is like it's such that I'm feeling the absence of that kind of charm, I'll say. But before I dive into that, Paul, we got a few news. So
press X
for some news.
I got you this time. I got to say it.
Yes. Yes. So, story number 1, Paul, a review roundup for Final Fantasy XVI. Final Fantasy XVI is out and the review embargo dropped the day before release. On Metacritic and OpenCritic, it holds an 88 and 89 respectively. This puts its review consensus amongst critics, comparatively speaking, behind big games like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom with the 96 and 95 and the 96, Metroid Prime Remastered, both at a 94, Resident Evil 4 at a 93 and 92, Street Fighter 6 at a 92 on both Dead Space and Hi-Fi Rush, which both have 89s in both Metacritic and OpenCritic, and puts it ahead of other big games like Diablo 4 at an 87 and 88, Star Wars Jedi Survivor at an 85 and 84, and Hogwarts Legacy, 84 and 84. Obviously, there's many other million games. I'm just talking about like the big games, like the big headline games.
Right.
Here is some excerpts. IGN gave it a 9 with reviewer Mitchell Salzman saying, featuring fast, reflex-driven, action-heavy combat, Final Fantasy XVI is certainly a departure from what fans may expect out of a Final Fantasy game, but its excellent story, characters, and world building are right up there with the best the series has to offer, and the innovative, active time lore features should set a new standard for how lengthy, story-heavy games keep players invested in its world. Michael Higham over at GameSpot gave it a 9, saying, Final Fantasy XVI is a bold shift in both gameplay and narrative, yet captures the Final Fantasy magic in stunning fashion, earning a place within the pantheon of incredible entries in the beloved franchise. Washington Post own Gene Park gave this a 3.5 out of 4 stars, which divides at an 8.8, and says...
Such a weird choice.
Yeah, they're doing 4 stars for some reason, so that's kind of how it divides. So he says, Final Fantasy XVI remains an eloquent, sturdy work that achieves almost everything its creators hoped. It's not the most innovative Final Fantasy ever made, it's just one of the best. Game Informer's Wesley LeBlanc gave the game an 8.5, which, by the way, a different reviewer, Andrew Reiner, gave Final Fantasy XV an 8.5 back in 2016. So it's so funny that two mainline entries scored the same, but different reviewers, different times. And he said, when I look back at my time with Clive, his friends, his enemies, and Valistia, it's those highs that I vividly remember. Final Fantasy XVI is very different from its predecessors, but in many ways, very familiar. And it's still a Final Fantasy through and through, reminding me why I love the series so much. BGC gave it a 4 out of 5, which translates to an 8. And reviewer Jordan Middler said, Final Fantasy has never played better, and 16's cast is destined to be fan favorites. We just wish that when they are outside of the Hollywood blockbuster tier adventures of the main quest, they were given some more interesting adventures to pursue. And Eurogamer gave it a 3 out of 5, which translates to a 6 out of 10, saying, a smart combat system straining under the weight of a characterful but ponderous pseudo-medieval soap opera with some of the grandest bosses and dullest side quests in Final Fantasy history. That was reviewer Edwin Evans Thurwell. Last week, Paul, we talked about the demo. I mentioned if the game really nailed what the vibes of that demo were striving for, that it seemed like this was going to be like the game of the year, like the actual like game of the year competitor to Tears of the Kingdom. Based on the reviews that I read, this is definitely going to be in the list for game of the year.
It'll be up there.
Yeah, it'll be up there, but it's not going to be like Zelda can like rest easy, let's just say. And I played 11 hours out of that game. You played probably 5 or 6 based on you finished the Kaiju battle, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll say this. I like this game a lot. Emphasis on like. After that demo, I thought I was going to love this. And there's many elements of this game I really love. When they mention the combat, they mean it. The combat's so much fun. Especially when, unfortunately, unlike Devil May Cry and all of that, a lot of the cool stuff has to be unlocked. Like, it's story gated. So it's like you don't get a lot of it. Because I remember when I played Devil May Cry 4 or even 5 recently, you already have a lot of cool things you can do out of the gate. Like a lot of you can start doing the combos, you can unlock more combos, but you can do a lot of stuff. There's such little combos that you can do in this game, and so much reliance of the hold R2 and press square or triangle for like the special abilities based on your icon and on your icon abilities, that until I started realizing, I kind of had to do that, especially because there was there's the accessibility charm that you can unlock that is like, make crazy combos just by pressing square. I put it on because I kind of wanted to see what it did and how it was mixing a lot of those abilities. So I was like, oh yeah, that's where the combos are. You have to do all of this. So when that started to click in my mind, the combat was like clicking with me more, especially when you get access to Torgal, the wolf. Such a cute wolf. I love that wolf. It's like such a big, like he reminds me so much of Ghost from Game of Thrones, which is so funny. Clive is Jon Snow. Clive is clearly Jon Snow in this game. in this game, it's like the Game of Thrones inspirations are clear. It almost
frustrates me that it is so wearing its inspiration on its sleeve that it looks like somebody created a fan fiction in the Final Fantasy universe, 50 Shades of Grey style. And just change the names. And they were like, whoa, what if Game of Thrones looked really cool and it wasn't super boring all the time? And they were like, we're just going to do this.
But it's so funny that you mentioned the boring part, because like Game of Thrones, I'll say this, writing in this game, pretty excellent. I was just playing Final Fantasy 15. I was just talking to a friend about it because he was asking me how I felt about it compared to 15. The writing in this one, way superior. Characters I feel like the voice actors that they got for the characters fit the characters well. I really like Clive's actor, especially when you're when a big like quirk of him, like obviously he starts. We talked about like a big tragedy that ends the demo that felt like kind of like the inspiration of what was gonna carry Clive for the rest of this game, and that is resolved pretty quickly with a reveal that it turns out. You can figure it out if you watch all the trailers, which I didn't do. And when you mentioned that, I actually went back and looked at the trailers. I was like, oh, I guess I was really not paying attention to what they were saying, because a lot of this thing is really spoilery. But some of that reveal kind of like adds an extra quirk to his character that I really like. Basically, without spoiling it, he's Bruce Banner. he's become a Final Fantasy's version of Bruce Banner. So you can understand kind of what that's an interesting dynamic, because the thing that hulks out from him is like such a destructive power. Let's just say, especially compared to like who he hulks out as, based on like a summons, based on what those summons wear in other Final Fantasies. Is an interesting quirk for the hero of the story. I love his relationship with like Jill. Which you see them early, like if you ever played the demo, it's like the young girl, and then they meet together like in battle by accident, and then she's your companion.
When did she come back into play with all that?
Oh, okay, so you haven't gotten that, yeah. So nope. after where you stopped, because you said you stopped in Haunted, right? You're looking for Gas, I think was his name, a guy that's like scouting something, and Sid was.
It was a new environment. I left the hideout for the second time. And like the second I got the control, I had to turn it off for the night. Yeah, so you're probably looking for a scout that's called Gas. Like that Sid was like, we heard where this dominant fire is. Like someone has an idea. Probably so.
Yeah. After that, there was a moment that is when I sent you the blinking meme that I was like, you gotta get to this, because it's interesting what they reveal after that sequence, and then Jill becomes part of your party after that. So. Really love the relationship. It's smartly written. Visually, this game's stunning. It's like that's something that cannot be denied. Especially like there are a few things that it's like there's some oldness here and there, but it feels intentional. It's like this is not photorealistic. It still feels like Square Enix design in a way, like how they like how the characters look and some of the level of detail it has. But the scale of like the Garuda fight, man, it's like this is just like I was mentioning with Ratchet and Clank. If you need a game that, if you have a big ass TV that's 4K and has all the bells of whistles, and you want something that really takes that to task, this game really delivers that, like big time. The soundtrack by Soken is so damn good. I want to re-listen the Phoenix versus Ifrit soundtrack from like the demo, and that's how it's like that's.
I was listening to it at work.
Yeah, it's like it just like it really is like it's adrenaline pumping. There's so much in this game that I can see being like, these are the things that could make this like a favorite game of all time / game of the year contender for me. And this is just so unfortunate that I hold back by wonky pacing, because way too many cutscenes. Some of them well acted, but something's too ponderous. Way too many walk here's a cutscene, walk to this other place is a cutscene. Before we started recording, there was a section where I was like walking to just talk to different places, and then extend the cutscene so much that I'm like, the combat is so much fun. And I like sometimes when the cutscenes dovetail really well with the gameplay. Sometimes either with the quick time events or dropping you back into like the combat, instead of feeling like here's a cutscene, now they're getting into position, now here's the combat section. It's like if you're not vibing too much with the story, the amount of cutscenes that this game has can be a deterrent. I like the story enough, but even I am feeling it. It's like to be able to make a blanket recommendation, be like, depends, man. Like if you're gonna love this, like if you're vibing with the story, you may like the fact that they're gonna be telling you a lot of it. Apparently, Final Fantasy XIV did the same thing, a lot of cutscenes, and the side quest design. Jesus Christ, it's bad. These are bad. These are bad side quests, and we read there was that tweet from Gene Park that you hated to hear, because someone asked him like, how does the side quest compare to like a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and a recent major JRPG, and he was the one that said it like, yeah, that one's better in side quests. Like when you look at that, and I understand where, because these are MMO fetch quests. Hey, go fetch me some wood. Hey, it's, this plate of food. Go take it to 3 people. Hey, I'm missing dirt over here. Go to this place and go pick me some dirt. Those are the kind of side quests that reminds me a lot of how bad the side quests were in Final Fantasy 15 also. And I'm like, for a game that's so good in so many areas, why is that in the game? I feel like that's what makes it more disconcerting, because you know that they're attempting something with this game, at least because obviously there's right now massive controversy with like Final Fantasy fandom, because this game has like really stripped to the bone RPG-ness to it. I would say like it didn't go far enough to me personally. They should have just stripped RPG altogether, because the RPG-ness is probably why people are gonna feel weird about the combat early on. because part of RPGs is kind of like a sense of progression. And if they have just committed fully to being an action game, it probably would have given a lot of that instead of like trying to feel like they had to put RPG-ness of like, yeah, maybe add some trinkets for 7% damage increase to certain things or 10% defense here. It's like it's the bare minimum for like build crafting and all of that I feels like they felt forced to like still include RPG elements, but I feel those RPG elements just being so minimal just underlines the fact that it's not like all older Final Fantasy games. And for so many people, that's a huge deterrent. For others, that's a huge win. If you've never finished one, like you are a big Final Fantasy guy that has never finished a mainline outside of 15 and 7 Remake, and that doesn't even count. So,
yep.
So it's like this feels like a game made for people like you, and even to me, people like me, because I'm also like that. I haven't finished many. I got close with 13. I got close with 10. At a certain point, those games just loses you. Like you lose interest with like its complexities, the turn-based stuff, and all that. And that's why, like, to me, like I like the action stuff. I wish I could play more of the action stuff. In fact, like when they send you into like a big wide open, and the thing is that this is not an open world, it's like segmented. I kind of appreciate that a little bit because it's like I'm glad it's not a big ass open world. I just had my fill with open worlds with Tears of the Kingdom recently. This feels at least manageable. But I was like, I would wait as long as I could to just fight literally everything. Just like, oh, there's an animal, there's some chocobos, I'm gonna go kill them. And just like, oh, there's this big turtle here, I'm gonna like fight this turtle. I'm gonna kill it because I just enjoy how it plays. Like Ryota Suzuki, the combat designer of Dragon's Dogma and Devil May Cry, like he cooked with like whenever you start seeing like everything, I'm like, yeah, he really made a really cool fight system, and it feels the game is disservicing by putting so much story in between like the combat when it plays so well. And that's kind of like what's preventing me from like really loving this. Yesterday it was funny though, it does feel like it eventually rewards you with something epic, because I said to you that I was liking after I finished Icon Battle and then Garuda happened, so that's why I was like, holy, okay, now I love this. And then I'm back to Melee, so I'm like, yep, it's one of those games, right? It's just gonna be like super high highs, and now
I think it's
high peaks and long valleys.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when the combat, like the second the combat music starts, I feel way better because everything that's about to happen is going to be really fun and entertaining because I know how to make it entertaining enough. Some people will play Devil May Cry and mash the one button, and yeah, you can kind of beat that as long as you don't get hit, but it's not fun. It's really about creating your own entertainment.
In this one worse if you're just doing that because enemies are spongier.
And I've watched people do that where they're just like the guy that's like eating a sandwich with one hand and mashing the button with the controller, and then Twitter has that context thing that's like, this man has at least 2 accessibility options on, and he's like actively ruining his whole thing or whatever it's called.
I'll say this, like I sometimes turn that on if like my hands start hurting because of the button combinations. To be able to do like the specials, you have to hold R2 and then the face buttons, and the way the PS5 controller is, like when you're just pressing the accessibility button, it does everything. It will do the R2 buttons, like it will combine all of it just by you pressing square.
You don't have to hold it though.
No, you don't. No, that's the thing. You hold it and then press the thing to do like for example, the Phoenix thing where you do the circle or the thing that lifts us. If you're doing the accessibility thing, you just press square and it does everything for you. The game pretends that you're holding R2 and square and triangle sometimes, but even though you're just pressing square.
I don't know, maybe I'm just used to using.
That's the thing. Like if you have the charm equipped, if you don't have it equipped, you have to like press R2, press square. Like you have to do all of that, like to be able to. Like,
I'm just wondering why you, who can handle the constant button mashing of Destiny, with your R2.
It's different when you're doing face button a lot and button mashing, and then wanting to like if you want to like connect combos like slashing, use the dog lift and press circle to lift yourself, then press R2 square to do like the scratches with the Garuda thing and all of that. You can do all of that manually. If you're after playing for a while, it can tire your hands. If you're doing like if you're doing the complex combo combinations, the good thing about the charm is that all of that is just like it does it automatically. You just have to be ramming the square button, and it pretends that you're doing all of that. And sometimes that looks really cool. In fact, like sometimes I did that to see what kind of cool combinations I could do, and it taught me, oh yeah, I can do that. Like if I time correctly turtle with D-pad down, then he's gonna lift someone. Then that's how I can like reach him with like my Phoenix teleport, or like grab it, or so it helps me teach me at least, because there's no like other games like actually that you can go to like a combo list and see like, okay, if I press this and this and this and this, it's like so the automatic charm at least tells me, oh, these are things that are possible for me to do this. Like I have a video that I posted about on my Twitter, the one I sent you, like look at the combos you can make. I was using the charm for that, so it was like that's what that charm does, and I'm glad that's there for people that are not that don't know about timing, because there are some combos like the square triangle, square triangle, square triangle that you have to like press triangle super fast, and there's gonna be some people that are just not gonna be fast enough. So I'm glad they took into consideration that. Basically,
I think I've been training myself unknowingly this whole time, because I've had zero issues with that. Both the timing combos of that, and then also doing the R2. I've actually figured this thing where if you put your thumb right between the square and the triangle, you can just hold one while also be hitting the other, and then you just alternate, and then you're holding square, hitting triangle, and then you let go to do the charge.
Yeah, the thing is that you can do quick R2 square like quickly. You don't have to like wait. It's just like more after a while. Like it grates. I felt it yesterday because I
haven't been able to play it as much.
Oh no, I played 11 hours.
Right, that's what I mean. Like I physically have not played nearly as much as you have, because I've had like a fraction of the time.
Yeah, and
I don't know how I keep up at all.
Yeah, I also you haven't reached places where there's so many enemies that you can just stay there and just like fight. I let myself that reprieve that as soon as I saw there's this place where you can find bulls, you can fight trolls, you can fight a giant turtle, you can fight like so many things. I killed literally I committed like genocide, like literally just to enjoy the combat and train myself more, because I wanted to be like, okay, I want to see if I can personally get to do the crazy combo combinations that the charm lets you do, because it's like when you have the charm on, it feels like you're playing Kingdom Hearts. You're just like pressing one attack button, and then you see Sora do like a weird crazy things like on screen. Which, if you can get yourself in that mindset, you don't want to play as a Devil May Cry, you can maybe do that. Who knows? Like they put the fail safes in place, I would say, to make this accessible, because there's a reason character action based games are never big sellers, because so many people just don't feel they have the dexterity for it. So and the only charm that I have enabled is the slow mo, to press R1 to the dodge. I like that one because it feels satisfying. But I leave the other charms for the RPG nest, for like 10% damage for this and 7% damage for this other thing, because then I feel it's like I would be gimping myself if I put the other accessibility charms. So, and also because I'm reviewing it, I need to keep this in action mode. So I don't want to be playing basically easy mode, even though easy mode apparently is still the same health. It's just like in story mode, it automatically equips the charms for you. So I was rehearing the Skill Up review, which by the way, Skill Up hated this game.
There were some people that were really tearing this game apart, and like I get some of it, because I'll be honest, there's a certain level of aesthetic that you're required if you enjoy certain parts of it. So even if at its best for the bombastic stuff, if you're not super into the kaiju side of things, you're not gonna really like pop off for it as much. I
love kaiju stuff.
So. I'm just barely enough that I can appreciate it. I like that Ifrit is much smaller than most others, so it still feels like small character fighting big object. But when it's like the really big ones, with Garuda versus Ifrit, honestly, I was a little bit checked out at times. I'm being honest. Yeah, because it was the same thing. It was really rudimentary. Like you have one button for ranged, one button for melee, and then you could kind of dash. And the whole match was like, there was no fight in it at all, really, because it was like, she's over there, you hit circle, you're immediately in front
dash
of her.
And then
you hit square, there's a cutscene, and then she takes a bunch of damage, and you're like, okay, do it again, and then it's the same thing. So
a lot of the sections rely a lot on the fact that they're giving you such incredible spectacle that it better like hit for you. And that's the thing, like God of War Ragnarok also had incredible spectacle back then. This is even better than that. back then there was like people didn't want to give the spectacle credit because some people feel that games that emphasize spectacle over gameplay are like old school in a way. But I'm like, there's something nice of seeing spectacle here and there. It's not what I want out of every game, because when every game is starting doing that, it feels less special. This feels special because this feels like God of War 3 style spectacle. That game was relentless back then. It's crazy that we haven't had that kind of game. And even Ragnarok got close to God of War 3 more than 2018. 2018 barely had spectacle, but it was by design because it was a more intimate game. But it was like, this feels like that kind of grand game we barely see because games are so much more expensive these days. And this game definitely feels, you feel the money on the screen in this one. Like,
absolutely.
They really put effort into the production. Like, for people that really value production value about everything, I'm calling you out, Sebastian, this is your game. Like, literally, this is your game. Like, what you want more is story and like and the spectacle and all that. Is like, this game is delivering that. I wish the pacing to get to those moments was slightly better, because it's easy to feel like and here's also a problem. It's like, this story is also so good that I don't want to skip the cutscenes, but then the cutscenes then eventually get bogged down, but you don't want to skip them. That's like the fun. That's kind of like the catch-22 of like where this is. Like, Final Fantasy 15, I didn't think had, like, I can listen to a podcast when playing that game because I feel like story is like so minimal of what I really need to pay attention for in that game. And also had the charm of like the main cast, which I kind of always mention, is like, this game can be also so dour and so dark that it's like you don't see you don't have kind of like the camaraderie with like other characters. It's definitely like, that's kind of where the Game of Thrones of it all kind of like comes into place. Like, everyone's definitely more self-serious. Like, Clive, great character, but definitely like in a very Jon Snow style of like mopey, especially after his big reveal. His relationship with Jill livens up a few things. Like, you meeting a Moogle eventually was like funny. You'll meet him eventually. It's like it's actually pretty cute when he meets a Moogle, which is it's in the base. You're just gonna walk and just talk to the Moogle, and it's like you're the only person that understands the Moogle, and the Moogle speaks in Moogle language. So that was like, oh yeah, there's some charm here. Your wolf is charming. Torgal is so cute. But it definitely doesn't have the cuteness that defines a lot of Final Fantasy. So it has that, but the highs are so high. It's like, this game has incredible highs. Probably some of the most highs you're going to see in any game so far this year. And I know that there are more coming. I saw the state of play. I haven't even gotten to some of that. So it's like, I know there's other stuff that are still to come. It's just that it's not a home run. It's like, it's not the home run that demo really made me feel it was going to be. That demo gave me blue balls. Literally, it was like that's how great that demo was. So.
It's at least for the cutscenes, to comment on that side of it, it's like you know how we kept talking about how like overly prestigious something like Death Stranding's cutscenes were. Mm-hmm. This is like that without the charm.
Yeah.
At times, like, I really resonate with like the really close, intimate side of it. Like, there's a kid. Mm-hmm. He's not appreciated by anybody. His brother is gone. Yeah. He lost his childhood friend. He's branded and locked into this world. And then all of a sudden you're going into this like political machinations. And I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Just let me see more of Clive. I don't care about this prince who can transform. I don't care about Odin. And it's like, why do foot soldiers even run around on a battlefield when there's like a 10% chance of Odin walking up in a giant horse and
just slicing everyone?
I'm gonna go find myself in the forest. Thanks very much. I'm not gonna deal with any of that. It just, part of it almost didn't make sense because it's like the dark, gritty side of Game of Thrones with like the crazy bombast of the kaiju, and I was like, something just doesn't connect for me because like they just took these two disparate elements and put them together without thinking about what it looks like on either side in the end.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's a taste thing. Like, I love the political machinations of Game of Thrones. In fact, like recently, last year when I rewatched that show twice by myself and with my mom, the political side of things were the more intriguing stuff. Even talking with my mom about it, like, that is like so engrossing. It's like, that has to hit for you. That's the thing. Like, this is a great story that relies on how much that is the kind of thing that it's of interest of you. If it's not of interest to you, good luck. Literally. So I think that's where that's kind of weird. Like, the politics side that I like, it's not like your thing. In fact, I would like more of that politics side instead of sometimes some pondering here and there, but I also like Clive and Sid interacting and all that. But sometimes it's like
I do really like Sid.
Yeah, Sid is amazing. By the way, my review editor Steve Esposito says that he looks like George Michael. So now like a singer. So like whenever you just look George Michael.
Look this up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up too, George Michael. He posted it on Twitter, and I saw it. I was like, God damn it, I'm not going to be able to unsee that.
Oh, no, I see it now.
Yeah, so it's like he's expecting he's going to break out in song all the time. And by the way, his voice actor is the same as Lorath.
Oh, shoot.
From Diablo 4, so.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, so it's like, it's funny. He got two big back-to-back games where you hear him, featured. So, and again, like the voice acting definitely feels stronger here than Final Fantasy 15. Like in acting and everything, just the production quality of this is like definitely a step up from the last one. It's just more, it feels like it's a game that you're gonna love if like political machination, Game of Thrones grittiness is something that you like. If you were a big fan of the spectacle that you can associate with Final Fantasy, and if you enjoy Devil May Cry style combats. The things that those are like the big things with this game, and if one of those doesn't hit for you, it's like your level of enjoyment of this game like plummets. And if you don't like any of that, this game's not for you. Especially if you're an old-time Final Fantasy fan, like a lot of those elements are like so underplayed or just non-existent at all. Like no materia, like there's no materia system in this game like other Final Fantasies. Like the upgrade grids of things is like not here also. So it's like it feels very distilled. And again, it's like, to me, that's not too bad because it's like at the root of Final Fantasy has always been reinvention. Especially like after Final Fantasy X, that every game has been just so wildly different from each other. Final Fantasy XI was an MMO. Final Fantasy XII was like turn-based to a certain degree, but with like a weird active time battle of like waiting for meters to fill up as you're moving around. Then 13 went back to turn-based stuff, but active turn-based stuff, like also with like the meter. So it's like you constantly have to like be managing the 3 different characters that are in combat and all of that. Final Fantasy XIV, again, an MMO. Then 15, the weird hybrid of this is an action game, but not really. It's like about holding buttons in an open world and all that. So it's like you can't deny that there's like it's rare for you to play 2 Final Fantasy games back to back and say that they're the same thing. It's like that's been at the root of the franchise, and this is the one time in the mainline franchise that they have completely pivoted like in gameplay from the other ones. That's hard for some people to grasp, but I don't feel it's too out of place for Final Fantasy. But I hope I'm turning, like, I feel like there's always turn the corners with these kind of games. Like, I feel like they can be like slow build-ups and all that. And I'm hoping that I end up loving it at the end. It's just like that demo like set my expectations so high, let's just say, that the rest
Maybe
of the...
that's why.
Yeah.
Because realistically, I think I'm back at the hype level that I was before I saw that one trailer that I really liked, and that was like
the October game.
The fourth one.
The fourth one back in October. Yeah.
Okay, so that was like when my hype jumped up more, and then the demo made it like really skyrocketed. Now I think I'm back to like before that trailer, so I'm not hating it.
Yeah, me neither. I don't hate it.
That I was really thinking it was going to be something different than what it ends up being.
Exactly.
And I think that's what frustrates a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what's doing, because it has every element about it, and it has so many elements that are such high quality that it's like it could feel like the best thing to come out in a single year. It's like because it has that kind of might, and like you see the money on screen. Like some of the things that really hit. It's just that it feels also caveated in a way, and then there's some elements that are legit issues that I'm like, oh man, like you got so close. But at least so far what I play is just not quite there. But here's also the thing, like this is also the highest reviewed Final Fantasy game in the last decade. Also, it's like if you count, so it's like if you go back to like Final Fantasy 13 and all that, it's like this one is also reviewing really highly, all things considered. Yeah. In fact, this is also a 1 point higher than Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though personally to me as of this moment in time, I prefer Final Fantasy VII Remake. I prefer Crisis Core.
Yeah,
so I feel those games are better for me currently.
I hate to admit it, but those are both better games. Yeah, and I get it now. And it's like no detraction from it. It's still decent. It's just something like 7 Remake with its perfect blend of spectacle and like you can still feel some presence running around doing favors for people underneath Sector 7, you know?
Yeah.
Sector 6,
and on top of that, I feel 7 Remake is like the perfect amalgamation of giving people action if you want to like tap buttons and all that, but keeping the strategy of a turn-based game.
Yeah.
And in a way making it so appealing. I remember saying, like, when we first played the demo of Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was like, I feel this has ruined turn-based games for me. Because it's like, it has the complexity of a turn-based thing. You cannot just wail at enemies and feel like you're going to succeed. It's like, you have to use the different combinations of the active time abilities of your characters, because some are going to help with stagger and all that. There's elements of stagger in here that feel strategic. Like, now I know that I have 3 abilities that I can spam to stagger an enemy and then have my damage ability like reserve it for like the stagger damage. There's a little bit of strategy still in this button mashing character action-based game that is 16, but I feel 7 Remake felt like it honored it honored the roots of the franchise more in a way that longtime fans feel served. I don't feel Final Fantasy XVI serves all-time fans. This is definitely trying to catch new fans and appealing more towards.
It probably will.
Oh, it is.
A lot of people that
were. Yeah.
I mean, we were hearing it on social media over and over again, where they were like seeing stuff like trailers and major outlets and all that stuff. I think this is easily going to get the most like new people, and they're probably going to eat it up. Yeah,
and like I said, it's a really great game. I really like it. I just don't like. After Tears of the Kingdom and understanding what it feels like to me to love something, now I know what love is. Like, absolutely adoring something, like to the fiber of your being. And this demo made it feel like this could be, if not the same level, but close to that. But it's something beneath that, and that's not bad. It's still a great game. Like, I feel an 88 feels right with what I played. I hope that I feel even better about it, like after a full week of playing and seeing it through. It's definitely something that I want to keep playing. That's the thing. Like, it's just not gonna be my game of the year. I know for sure. So, but that's also my thing. It's like a game shouldn't not be game of the year for you to enjoy. Like, game of the year should not be like the prerequisite to be able to enjoy a game. You can always enjoy many games, and this is definitely gonna be part of that list of like the best games that came out this year. I feel like, objectively speaking, it's a really great game. Definitely taste and your likes is gonna determine how much you're gonna love it. But yeah, so far I like it. So you like it too. We just don't adore it. But let's see if we can love it by the end, because there's some moments that I'm like, yes. So it's crazy to think, Paul, that a Nintendo Direct also happened this week. So story number 2, just going real quick, we're gonna read through the things that were announced. So are moving over to Warrior 64. Thankfully, he always lists. He always lists it. So the Nintendo Direct happened this Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. So you're 10 basically you're 10 a.m. So it was like a 40-minute thing, Nintendo Direct that was shockingly solid, I would say, for the Nintendo Direct after Zelda. That's now taking us to the twilight years of this console. So it's clear that we're winding down, but you can't say that you're gonna be like in other Nintendo cycles, you're gonna be left with nothing. I feel if you're in the Nintendo cycle, there is something for you. So, and there's some things that I'm actually really interested about. We're not gonna. I'm just gonna read this through, Paul. Like we're not gonna go one, but we can say our things afterwards. So, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet: The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero was announced. This is the expansion for the disastrously launched Pokemon from last year that sold a lot also, and apparently I think it's fixed technically, but who knows. So that is coming in. They're doing an event on June 21st to give more details about this, so probably when the release date of this thing will be. So if you're a fan of Pokemon and want to play more of that Pokemon, I mean, more power to you. So they gave us another look at Sonic Superstars, the 2D Sonic game that Jeff Keighley revealed at Summer Game Fest. Still just fall 2023. Then there's this game called Palia that feels like a explorer game that gives you a little Valheim survival thing. It's like a cute thing. It's a free-to-play adventure sim that's out this holiday. Then we got another look at Persona 5 Tactica, the Tactics Persona 5 game that we saw revealed at the Xbox Showcase, and confirmed to come to Switch on November 17th. Weirdly enough, Persona 3 Remake wasn't announced here, so I wonder if that's not coming to Switch at all. Which would be weird, because Persona 5 Royal is on Switch, so they don't seem that different. Then we got this. We got to hear about Myth Force, which is like a first-person magic game, medieval game that's gonna be available in 2023. And they also announced Splatoon 3 Splatfest, which is kind of like maybe like an event for Splatoon 3 for people that still play that game. Detective Pikachu 2, which was revealed a long time ago, probably around the time the Detective Pikachu movie was coming, reemerged.
Forgot this game existed.
Yeah, everyone did.
It had already come out.
Yeah, everyone did, and everyone thought this was like a new announcement. But it was like, no, they actually finally showed it. It's coming out on October 6th, and it's called Detective Pikachu Returns. Then probably the big headliner for me for this, Super Mario RPG remake. The RPG from the Super Nintendo, the last Super Nintendo game, finally comes back with a modern coat of paint, and it's coming out on November 17th. And also it's still a collaboration with Square Enix, so Square Enix having a big year this year. But then Nintendo immediately announced that Princess Peach is getting her own game again after like Super Princess Peach years back. I think it was on Wii, or probably the DS. Yeah, so she's finally getting her own solo game again. And Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon leaving the 3DS and coming to the Switch. It wouldn't surprise me, like close to this, we also hear that Luigi's Mansion 1 is coming, and then they're gonna do the whole play the entire series here, like they did with another game later.
Yeah.
Batman Arkham Trilogy is actually coming to Switch in fall 2023. This was so random.
That announcement was hilarious.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Okay, get games from 8 to 11, 12 years ago, because Arkham Asylum was 2009. It's 2023, so a long time ago. But hey, I mean, Nintendo fans got to play Arkham City back in the Wii U, so they get to play the other ones now on the Switch. I can't wait to see how they run. Gloomhaven.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, Gloomhaven, like a top-down. I think it's a top-down dungeon crawler style RPG is coming on September 18, 2023. Just Dance 2024, which was announced at the Ubisoft thing, got shown here some of this music that is gonna be in that. It's gonna be in that version of the game. Just Dance in the Switch works perfectly. It's like such a match made in heaven, so of course it's gonna be there. Silent Hope, an RPG from Exceed Games, was shown, and it's gonna come out here on October 3rd on the Switch. Fae Farm, one of the farm games that was released in that farming heavy Nintendo Direct from last year.
I still can't believe the coincidence of all those games.
Yeah, it's like got shown again here, but it's like no release date, at least from what it was in the Warrior thing. Maybe it was, I didn't pay attention. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 is like the Switch version's finally out. It's like, again, one of those games that you thought was already on Switch, but sometimes those versions come later because it takes extra time to make it work on such a horrible old hardware. Manic Mechanics, it feels like a Mario Party style game. Like it's coming out on July 13th.
I think I would call it more like Overcooked.
Oh, okay, yeah, something like that.
Couch co-op, play with three buddies, kind of thing.
Yeah. Then the second paid DLC for Mario & Rabbids was out that same day. We know that the Rayman one's coming later this year. That was announced at the Ubisoft thing. Dragon Quest Monsters, so kind of like Dragon Quest Pokemon, I think is what kind of what we said.
Pokemon Rangers,
or Pokemon Rangers. Yeah, so that's out on December 1st. They gave us an extensive look at Pikmin 4. That game is getting a whatchamacallit. That game's actually getting a demo out on June 28th. Oh. I don't know if progress carries over for that one, but that also came with the announcement that Pikmin 1 and 2 from GameCube are real and available now. And then Nintendo in their Japan, by the way, like just as a tangent, then Nintendo on their Japanese thing were like, play the entirety of the Pikmin franchise here. So I'm like, if they're willing to say like you can play the entire franchise here, then there's hope eternal for the things that we're waiting, Paul. Always. So
who knows?
But I believe it. Like if they're doing Pikmin 1 and 2, they're doing the other ones. They're just like building it up. Those bastards. Yeah. This was a big surprise to me. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 that was revealed at the PlayStation event is actually coming to Switch. So portable Metal Gear 1, portable Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and portable Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Not the first time that's happened. On Vita, you can play those three games handheld, but who has a Vita now? Even one working, like, and the Switch.
If it works, is the tricky part.
Exactly. So having that on Switch is like, I think that's a big get. I feel, and because Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2, the original ones, like Snake and Revenge, those were on NES before the franchise switched to PlayStation. So, so it's that's the reason why Solid Snake was in Smash, because it had that heritage.
I just thought it was a good crossover.
No, it was a crossover because there was some heritage and appearance on the system. Like something like Cloud and Sephiroth was like after the fact they got the original version of Final Fantasy VII, but that was paving the way to get that port. But Metal Gear had history with Nintendo, so those NES versions are gonna be in that version. So that thing gave us a date. So Metal Gear Volume 1 coming October 24th. Of course, it's coming on October. October is insane. And by the way, that 2D Sonic game is coming 2 days before the Mario game that we're going to talk about also. So another October game. October is getting crowded right now. So Vampire Survivors, the hit indie game from last year that was just on Xbox, Game Pass, and PC, coming to Switch. Still no word on PlayStation. So Vampire Survivors is really addicting. I would say like that game's perfect for the phone. So I would recommend playing the phone. That's coming on August 17th, a day after my birthday. My 30th birthday. Headbangers Rhythm Royale coming on October 31st. They also showed Penny's Big Breakaway. It's like a platformer game that's coming on early 2024. More Mario Kart 8 DLC because people don't stop buying the damn game. And Star Ocean: The Second Story Arc, a remake of Star Ocean 2 from what I understand. That is coming on November 2nd, and that's also going to be on PS5, PS4, and PC. I have to like remind Sebastian that's on PC because he would love to play it on Steam Deck. And a new WarioWare. That was like I'm glad that WarioWare is like finally like back because we got a WarioWare 2 years ago, and apparently that did well enough, so they're willing to do another WarioWare. It's called WarioWare Move It. That's a reminder of like the WarioWare game from Wii. You probably remember that one.
I'll be honest, I don't see the appeal at all for Wario games.
Yeah, especially the WarioWare games are just time waster because they're like super quick mini games.
Yeah,
I love the DS one, and because that was my first one, I enjoyed that one a lot. So then then Nintendo said, "Hey, yeah, we're doing a live event, Nintendo Live 2023 in Seattle." So they gave a few more details that they're gonna do a championship tournament for Mario Kart, a championship tournament for Splatoon 3, a tournament for and a tournament for Smash Ultimate. So then this was the moment that cock blocked me. Then they were Nintendo was like,
there was no way.
Yeah, so they were like, oh yeah, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom released a few months ago, and it sold a lot. We thank you a lot. Then they bowed, and then I thought at that moment they were gonna say like, and let us tell you, there's all these other games that you will love to play. But no, they're like, no, there's a Zelda amiibo and a Ganondorf amiibo that's gonna be available for holiday 2023.
Did you really have any hope for that one? Like, it was too early in the game. I was like, they wouldn't just drop that right in the middle like that. There's no way.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I mean, they will want to keep selling. That is like, to me, my hope eternal is still the fact that they went back to Metroid Prime happened. Now Pikmin 1 and 2 happened. So it's like they're like bringing those GameCube games. So, and right now that they're running out of things, they're gonna definitely be remastering to ride out the Switch Live. Especially, I feel right now Nintendo understands that a lot of people are clamoring a lot of their old games, so they're gonna take advantage of that because for new big games for them to come out, they probably are Switch 2 games at this point. So I feel remaster is a good way to like send the system out. But hey, no remaster to end the Switch, which was a new 2D Mario confirmed. Super Mario Bros. Wonder out on October 20th with a new art style and wackier stuff that remind me a lot of Rayman. And what was another game that reminded you of?
Oh,
I'm trying to remember.
I don't even remember. I don't know what I said, but I adore everything about this. The more I saw of it, the fact that they had such crazy variety in their worlds was blowing me away, honestly. The crazy gimmicks that keep changing things up. Oh no, I said it was Mario Rift Apart. Because you just finished, and it like completely gets all wonky, and you go through the different worlds and stuff. That's why I said that.
Mario Rift Apart. Yeah. So my thing is that they have stuck with like the 2D Mario has been stuck with this new Super Mario Bros. Art style since the DS back in 2006, all the way to the Wii U version that we got. Sorry, the definitive edition on Switch. 2D Mario has just become so generic looking, like with that art style, that this is not a massive reinvention, but the art style feels so different enough that feels fresh. and inventive. And man, 2D Mario, those games are just perfect. They're like perfect for what they are. And Nintendo has balls. You know when this game comes out?
Like the same day as Starfield, or
look at my fingers.
Oh, Spider-Man.
Yeah, they don't care about Sony. It's like, we're putting a 2D Mario.
I'm seeing you doing this little number. What's he doing?
Yeah, so yeah, it's like coming out the same day as Spider-Man. What insane is? Someone says like October 20th. What a banger day for names with S and M. Spider-Man, Super Mario.
Blue and red color schemes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ironic.
It's just it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at least there's not going to be as much of an overlap. Most people that are going to get Spider-Man
are going to get Spider-Man.
Yeah, and vice versa. If you're a big Mario person, you're probably okay with just going for Mario.
Yeah, or if you love both, you're going to buy both. Like Mario's that kind of game. And ingenious move of Nintendo saving this kind of game for this year. Maybe I would have put it earlier to synergize with the movie, but the movie was such a success. Is the breakout animated success of this year, the Super Mario movie. So having a game out this year, the same year that Tears of the Kingdom came out, on top of a bunch of the stuff that they had there, it's like the Switch is having one of the best Twilight years I've ever seen from a Nintendo console. I remember how bad the GameCube and Wii final years were.
They had to sacrifice Twilight Princess to give it Twilight years.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, one day. But hey, it's like Pikmin 1 and 2 releasing. I was like, there's enough here that I'm like, I still say, so I keep saying like Sony really fumbled the ball with their showcase, with the thing that mattered, like giving exclusive games that people can get excited about, like new, not just things that you announced. They rode the coattails while Microsoft and Nintendo announced new stuff, on top of like showing more of the stuff that you had already seen. So it's like, this was a good direct, like for what they are. Again, like we're not big Nintendo fans. I mean, we are fans, but it's like no, it's not our primary system. Zelda was our big outlier. So,
yeah. So it's like, just to go back through it, we have the 2D Marios. I talked to Sebastian about it. The Star Ocean game looks cool. I don't know if it's going to be something I'm going to actually enjoy playing, but the Metal Gear Solid is a great get. I love the fact that Pikmin 1 and 2 is on there. I think I messaged to you. It was like finally going to get your chance. That I failed all those years ago in Pikmin 1, because they only give you, for anybody that doesn't know,
30 days.
They give you 30 days, 30 times landing on the planet and getting everything that you need to get before the game forcibly ends. And whatever you've collected for your ship is how you launch up. If you don't, you die, and you watch your character have like a funeral procession from the Pikmin and everything. It's horrible. I hated it. 12-year-old me just broke.
Yeah, same. No, yeah, that game, like I think came out in like 2002, so I was like 8 when I played it.
Yeah,
so
I played it way later.
Yeah, so it was like I couldn't grasp it. Like, I couldn't get out of the first area. So that's like, that game's another blind spot for me. So that's why it's like when I saw it, I was like, yes, I feel redemption. Finally get to play it. The remaster work, I got to see it as like not even remotely as close as the Metroid Prime remaster work, which visually Metroid Prime remaster was like a shockingly good like visual uplift compared from Nintendo of all places. So that one's more remaster, like more basic remaster. But it's like $30. Like if you just want to get the first one, it's 30, and if you're gonna get the 2 games,
once
it's 50.
Again, it's the perfect talk between art style versus realism, because it was so cartoony that you didn't even really need to do much because the designs were perfect.
Exactly, yeah. And Metroid Prime was more photorealistic, not photorealistic, but it was striving for more detail. So the remaster work that they made made perfect sense. Nintendo fans have nothing to worry about this year. They are eating good. Everyone's eating good this year. Xbox last year ate nothing, so I feel good that they're also eating good this year. So, like, that's what you want out of a year. All 3 console manufacturers like delivering big games. So even with our sort of apprehensions of Final Fantasy XVI, it's like a PS5 exclusive. Like PlayStation fans can't say they're getting another freaking exclusive Final Fantasy game. So final story, Paul. This one's interesting. This is one that I had to eschew, trying to link us to the links to stories, because I had to parse it from different tweets. I had to parse it from like different write-ups and all that. This week, story number 3, both the FTC and Microsoft went to a court pre-hearing that will determine if the FTC is granted a temporal injunction that could further delay the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard King, which had a tentative closing day of July 18, 2023, before they have to renegotiate the deal or walk away completely. Here are some of the juicy details, key headlines that have come out of the first day and a half of the court hearing. More stuff would have happened even as we were recording, but these are the ones that I got for us to discuss. So, one of the first ones. Sony says if the deal goes through, they would withhold dev kits and hardware spec information of a potential PlayStation 6 to Activision Blizzard because they would now be under the roof of a direct competitor. Microsoft confirmed Sony did the same thing when it came to Minecraft, withholding dev kits and becoming the reason Minecraft never got a PS5 native version of that game. This was kind of like mentioned about like if they were like to acquire the company, but they were promising like if they were going to keep things multi-platform. If not, Microsoft mentioned, it was like, oh yeah, Sony said that if that happens, they're not going to give us the thing. So if they don't get the game or it's delayed or anything, it's like it's on them because they withheld the dev kit. And because you have to tell people ahead of time when the new console's coming, like what are the specs going to be, what are you going to be targeting. Right. So this time, like I understand Sony. Sony's like, yeah, it's like you're not going to be working with a direct competitor. So it's like, we got to keep that.
It makes sense, but then the fact that Microsoft clapped back and was just like, "Yeah, you've already done that."
Yeah,
that's not a big deal.
Yeah. So this one, the other juicy detail that came out of this, Paul, it's like this was probably gonna be of interest to you. Bethesda's Indiana Jones game by modern Wolfenstein developer Machine Games has been confirmed to be an Xbox and PC exclusive that will launch day one on Game Pass. Originally, Bethesda closed a deal with Lucasfilm for a multi-platform Indiana Jones game prior to ZeniMax being acquired by Microsoft. Post-acquisition, Bethesda amended their contract with Disney, which they agreed to, for Indiana Jones to now be an exclusive game, with Microsoft citing Sony's exclusive Spider-Man games and the now perpetually delayed exclusive KOTOR remake as reasoning enough to have an exclusive licensed IP game under their umbrella. This was brought up because about like the whole thing, like will Microsoft say that they would uphold their contracts and all that, and Microsoft was mentioning how when they acquired Bethesda, they honored their deals with Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo that were gonna be like PS5 exclusive games. And then the FTC trying to find a gotcha, they found the thing with Indiana Jones and how they were gonna like why did that one change and the other ones didn't. And then they specifically mentioned that they talked to Disney and Disney was okay with Spider-Man being exclusive to PS5 and KOTOR being exclusive to PS5. So they asked them, hey, can we have one? And Disney was like, yeah, you can have Indiana Jones. So, the third point of this one. Remember PlayStation securing year-long console exclusivity for Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo? It appears they were also trying to get the upcoming space RPG Starfield as a console exclusive for PlayStation 5. As an incentive to not be locked behind by losing another Bethesda game from their platform, Microsoft went and purchased the publisher outright as a means of survival, citing Sony using its market power and might to shrink Xbox market share. They didn't put this here also, but they also mentioned that, do you know that Call of Duty also almost skipped this generation of Xbox?
I did not.
So that happened today. That was revealed today. So apparently Sony, the market share, like kind of like how the earnings go, is like for every game that you sell, it's like 70% goes to like the publisher and 30% stays with like the console owner. Apparently, like the Call of Duty franchise had not been selling so well on Xbox One that Activision was forcing Microsoft for an 80-20 of revenue share, and if they were not going to do that, they were not going to put Call of Duty on Xbox. So they were kind of saying this. So again, kind of mentioning like their means of survival. The things of why they're trying to acquire things is because of what other companies were doing to Xbox due to the market power and might of PlayStation's dominance. So that's kind of like, because it was like, yeah, they lost that. Like, it's so funny because Bethesda and Microsoft have always been like this, always.
Yeah.
Getting Deathloop and Ghostwire as exclusive for PlayStation 5 was weird. It was so weird and out of left field.
It felt wrong.
It felt wrong because it was like, you would have expected if they were going to be exclusive, they were going to be with Xbox, because that's always been that relationship. In fact, like that's why we talk about what are purchases that make sense. They're like the courting before putting the ring on it. Even though they're multi-platform, Microsoft and Bethesda has always been like that, all the way back to Morrowind. So them losing those 2 games and potentially also losing Starfield, that's why like they and Bethesda agreed to some exclusivity because they were hurting for money. That's the only reason why they did it. And Sony was and Sony put out the money, like put out the might.
I mean,
of
justifiably, because Bethesda was coming out with some really crappy games for
exactly,
a couple of years there.
Exactly, yeah. The Fallout 76 completely sullied their reputation forever. So then Microsoft, knowing that they were doing this kind of deals because they were hurting, that's why they offered overpaying the 7.6 billion. That's why they acquired them. So here's my favorite, Paul. Racking and Brock. The fourth juicy out of all this. Remember all the brouhaha of PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan mentioning that if Microsoft were to acquire Activision Blizzard and make Call of Duty exclusive would mean the end of their business? It turns out that was all grandstanding. As part of Microsoft's hearing rebuttals to the FTC, they provided an email Jim Ryan sent in January 2022, 2 days after the announced merger, when he reacted saying this. It's not an Xbox exclusivity play at all. They're thinking bigger than that, and they have the cash to make moves like this. I spent a fair bit of time with both Phil Spencer and Bobby Kotick over the past day. I'm pretty sure we will continue to see Call of Duty and PlayStation for many years to come. We have some good stuff cooking. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm not complacent and I'd rather this hadn't happened, but we'll be okay. More than okay. Time out. So, we went an entire fucking year without a showcase. We had this guy going to scream over at Brussels and all of this thing, like saying how bad this deal was. Like if this happened, we're finished. And then having to make themselves feel so weak because of wanting to stop this deal, even though they knew that Phil Spencer, what Phil Spencer promised them, they meant it, that Call of Duty was going to remain multi-platform and all of that because of the of how big Call of Duty was. And we still have to. He had to like sacrifice us, the fans that love their brand, to the altar of them trying to stonewall this deal when they knew that, when deep in their minds they were not worried about it. That angers me to no end. Like,
it makes me wonder if like which one was actually the lie.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, I could see this being that, oh, don't worry, guys, don't freak out, don't worry.
Yeah.
And like in the background, he's like, this is a huge deal. This is terrible.
Apparently, this was an internal email that he was sending to people within Sony, like investors. Yeah. And and Microsoft was able to like acquire this email. Like they're trying to find like things, like they were able to intercept this through process of discoveries and all that. So the lie was what they were saying to Brussels and all of that. Of course, PlayStation was not gonna suffer just losing Call of Duty. It's like they're the biggest console in the world, but they were acting like they were gonna like completely be destroyed if that would happen. So just ending time out here. So while in the stand and under oath, and when asked by journalists if he was at the stand, Phil Spencer made a public promise: there will be Bethesda and Activision games multi-platform, always from a case-by-case basis, and promises Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation 5 and future PlayStations, citing the financial loss of removing the game from the platform would be insurmountable.
Ooh.
They got him like under oath. So
he got that one pretty well said.
Yeah. So it's like we're still gonna get Bethesda games on PlayStation, gonna be case by case. Like we've gotten some, like Skyrim still showed up there. Elder Scrolls Online is still there and all that. They'll just like Quake. They put Quake games, like some of the old ones they were putting there. So that's what they're doing. It's like I understand like the newer stuff that has no precedent. That's the thing that's gone exclusive. So Redfall and Starfield, obviously Redfall, big like no big loss there. after what happened there.
Yeah,
so,
I'm still a little sad that it had to be Starfield.
Yeah.
That ended up being the one thing that's exclusive.
Yeah, that was the one that basically like Brian McCaffrey at IGN mentioned. It's like this is the fuck around and found out.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a good similarity to that.
Yeah, I feel they were pushing because it's like they got two and they were pushing for a third one. That's a lot. So yeah. I understand, and I always said it is like the Bethesda acquisition is the one that never really bothered me too much because it made sense because I was seeing where Bethesda was, and if they were gonna get like the financial security of Microsoft to be able to do what they did best under that promise, like that's why I was like, yeah, that one's an organic one. That it makes sense that they're together. Sucks that PlayStation's gonna miss out on that, but I feel it's better for Bethesda right now that happens. But Activision's weirder because it was like they were not as cozy, and that only happened because people forget. The only reason that Activision decided to sell is because they're embroiled in sexual harassment, people. Don't forget that. So that's what's so funny. And the final morsel for this. When asked about other Bethesda and Obsidian games that were all formerly multi-platform going exclusive for their next entry, like Outer Worlds 2, that was multi-platform, and the Elder Scrolls 6, obviously Skyrim wasn't literally every system available. It's probably in your fridge. One still hasn't been decided about its exclusivity status, and the other is still 5 years away. With Phil Spencer even mentioning they don't even know which systems it will even launch on at the state. During the hearing, it was also mentioned offhand they expect 2028 to be the start of the next generation of consoles. The 5-year mention is pregnant with meaning.
It's the weirdest phrases.
Yeah.
It's pregnant with meaning. What?
Yeah.
What? Dude. You made my wife start laughing back there.
So, it's like, hey, it's 2023. They're saying Elder Scrolls is 5 years away. That's not coming out this generation.
No.
With how long Starfield has been.
I wonder if COVID is going to have affected like the distance with somebody being able to jump into the next one. I mean, it took them so long to get the ability to make PS5s and all the others. Mm-hmm. So it's like maybe it'll push it back. Maybe we'll have a prolonged series of this generation.
It obviously, because remember, both these games were announced in 2018. So they've been in development for a while. And
honestly, Elder Scrolls 6 never should have been
announced.
They were like generic CG city, and it's like Elder Scrolls 6. That means nothing. You idiots.
Yes, it's like the only reason why Bethesda did that is that, remember, they used to not do press conferences. Then in 2015 they started doing one. It went so well because they had so many games that it was perfect storm for them to be able to announce so much. That's where Dishonored 2 happened. Doom 2016 was revealed there. They got the extensive Fallout 4 demo. That's still to this day one of the greatest showcase demos ever. That sold so many people, and like that was the first reveal of that game. It was all gameplay. Yeah. And then out that year. It comes
out like 6 months later.
5 months later. It was like it was like perfect storm. So then it was like that was so successful that then they were like, we're gonna keep doing conferences. Then every conference afterward had less and less announcements. Then the 2018 one was like, okay, the only big thing we have here is Fallout 76, and it's and at the time that was before we knew it was gonna be a disaster. But that was it was like, this is gonna be a multiplayer Fallout. It's not what they want. Let's ease them, like let's fill them with peace that the single player RPG that Bethesda is known for is still coming. Starfield and Elder Scrolls. So that's why they announced it way too early. So the fact that Skyrim came out in 2011 and Elder Scrolls 6 will be 2028. Make the math, Paul. That's insane. Yep. Absolutely insane. That's taking that long.
If it comes out and it hits the way Skyrim did, then they will have earned that time.
Yeah. Yeah, like GTA. GTA is the same.
Legs that it will last for the next 2 decades.
Yeah, it was announced that Skyrim has sold 60 million copies. That's the reason why they kept like releasing it. And it's interesting when I mention it because it's like, yes, these are two, like Outer Worlds and Elder Scrolls are like those multi-platforms turn exclusive thing, like that people think. So I still think they're gonna be exclusive because I feel they will want, like, just based on like the case by case thing. The single player stuff, I think, is the thing that they probably want to keep for themselves. And the games that may need like bigger numbers and multiplayer stuff, that's the thing that will be multi-platform, especially in this era of cross-play, like player engagement and numbers. I think that's what they mean. I think that's fine because it's like if they want to see big success, they have to keep that. So it's just interesting. What I love about court hearings and process of discovery, these are the juicy things that come out out of things that there's gonna be more because there's 3 more days that could happen. So maybe another interesting thing will have been said here. So, but hey, if what PlayStation wanted like a full like confession of like we are keeping Call of Duty on that system, they got it like on their oath. So
at least we know legally, like that has to be it. We know that we have the answers that people were wondering about. I mean, he said it at least clear enough.
Yeah.
For like one of them you've decided, one of them is so far out we don't even know what game system it's going to be on. I was like, all right, that's fair.
Yeah. And then the big one that has been like the huge consternation of Sony, or what seemed like huge consternation. Now we know that they were just like playing, like they were just pretending, grandstanding. So yeah, it's like it's like I would love nothing for more than for Sony to look at this and be like, if Jim Ryan is not able to stonewall this, he's out. I would love nothing more than that, for that man to just go out. He makes PlayStation look bad. it makes being part of that ecosystem feel bad, because it's like, it's just a meme. So, I mean, just find pictures of him playing, like playing with a PlayStation 4 controller. How he grabs it is so... I'll send you that image later. So
I saw it. He's holding it from the back.
So,
I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's like, it's... Yeah. And with that, Paul, that's the end of the news for it's like technically low, but a lot. So, tell me, what are the game releases for June 25th to July 1st?
We have Destroy All 2... Oh my gosh, I can't... I start out the gate every time and I mess up. Destroy All Humans 2, Reprobed single player, PlayStation 4, Xbox One on June 27th.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's a Friday,
Story
Paul.
of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC on June 27th. AEW Fight Forever on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on June 29th. The Lara Croft Collection on Switch on June 29th. Crime O'Clock on the Switch and PC on June 30th. Everybody 1-2 Switch on the Switch on June 30th. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, June 30th. Goodbye World. That's not a game. I'm just goodbye.
Yeah, I know. I just
Goodbye World on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One on June 30th, and Master Detective Archives Rain Code on the Switch. What in the world is that?
Yeah,
on the Switch on June 30th. And that's everything.
Nothing for me this week, and I don't care. I have Final Fantasy.
I'm glad that the Lara Croft collection is coming to the Switch at least. I mean, I didn't even know Everybody 1-2 Switch. Is that like a sequel to the 1-2 Switch that came out? I didn't even know that was coming out. Like, I never heard that.
Yeah, he just got shadow. He just got shadow announced. He just got shadow announced with one of the weirdest, most like psychedelic trailers I've ever seen. You should look it up. It's so funny. A man with the BoJack Horseman like horse head, like it's like it's so.
Story of Seasons was one of those Farmville like games that we saw a while back.
Yeah, Story of Seasons is basically a Harvest Moon remake, from what I understand.
It looks like it. So. And then I'm glad Destroy All Humans 2 is kicking it out here.
It's,
I was never allowed to
yeah.
play it as a kid.
There's hilarious. It's like I think one of them is in PS Extra, the original one that got a remake. Is that there?
Oh yeah, that's right.
They're just like violent catharsis. If you want, if you just want Ratchet and Clank style like shooting, like against like humans in 1950s, like with the racism and xenophobia of that era, definitely play that. So, but I mean, it's fine. Right now, we're still in the middle of Final Fantasy 16. It's like even with some of our quibbles, it's like it's all I want to play right now. So, and then like Immortals of Avium that was on July got delayed to August 22nd. So July is now.
Was that today? When was
that? That was on July. That was July 20th. That was going to be one of the July games. So our July is looking more vacant now. Of like what we're gonna play. So like, there's Exoprimal and Remnant too. So backlog will be nice to dip back. I kind of want to finish Oblivion because I still have a save that I still have playing there. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a save from 2021.
Go play Skyrim.
Yeah.
Oh man.
As in order. And with that, Paul, that ends the show for this week. Where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I've been posting some Street Fighter gameplay segments and crazy things that happen. Of course, I'm never going to post one of me losing, so you'll just have a great idea of how I wonder do.
Yeah, I wonder if you're gonna break Final Fantasy 16. The game seems pretty polished so far.
I don't think there's been any like actual breaking of things. No, I've broken just about everything up until that point, but nothing in Final Fantasy 16 yet. But we'll see. I feel like I could make it happen.
Yeah, you'll find a way. Like.
Once I got Garuda's ability, I started just bouncing, because if you're close enough and the enemy is bigger, instead of pulling,
you start bouncing. It's so satisfying to start doing the air
I wouldn't
attacks.
say it's broken because it's obviously intended, but the way that you can start to do the actual air combos that they talked about made me very happy. So that's where I'm gonna be for after all this.
Yeah, I'm hoping by this time next week we have even more positive things to say.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Yeah. So, and with that, you can find me at _Segovia on Twitter, Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, and my written content at seasongaming.com and thecriticalcorner.com. Let's see how long it takes me to finish and review this game. So, because my review will be there, and I have nothing else to play, thankfully. So,
True.
I was almost debating on maybe I should, since I was already in chapter 8 out of 14 of Final Fantasy 15. It's like it gets shorter the more you go. To just finish it and then just go back to 16, but I'll see.
We'll see. There's going to be a lot of stuff. Like, there's so many things that I've gotten for free during this year that I want to, like, Inscription is on PlayStation Extra that I wanted to try.
Solstice, the Platinum's looking game that we saw one time, is also now there. So
all the stuff that's coming out for Game Pass, if not already, or is about to. It's like
NFS Unbound being on Game Pass. It's actually really. That's like really. I really like the trial of that one. Really liked it. So we'll see. It's like I feel after we're done with Final Fantasy 16, now July will be finally our quiet time. It feels like because the fall will have no chill. Now that we know so many games are even just in October alone.
Yeah.
Oh man. So,
jeez.
So we'll see. All right, Paul.
Anyway.
Always a pleasure, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you both on video, the few that watched there, or the audio, the many that listened there. So, and again, like I mentioned at the beginning, if you like the show, give us a like, share some reviews. We'll love to hear. Clan buddies, give us a review if you're listening.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, just write chaos.
You have to say chaos before and after each of your paragraphs.
Yeah. Oh man, but I think I like the combat of Stranger of Paradise a little better as of
Okay, we're gonna start. Good night, everybody. Press X to play. Go away.
Adios.
Good night.